right, let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover today. So again, thank you guys for joining me today for our Knack 101, Learning the Basics of Knack. So who am I? I am your presenter today, your host. My name is Ro, and I'm part of our onboarding team here at Knack. So we work with a lot of our customers looking to validate Knack's our tool to make sure it's going to work for what they need, as well as we assist with onboarding and helping with any initial training that you might need to help you build out your application. All right. So what can we expect here today in the webinar? We are going to do a demo. We're going to demo one of our template apps. We're going to dive into template app customization as well. So you'll see we're going to do a demo and a live customization. If there's time for questions at the end, I will be responding to those questions live and doing my best if I can demo that during the webinar. So you'll notice in our conference room, we have a Q&A section as well as the chat section. And let me make sure everyone has the ability to chat. Let's see. Yep. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out in the Q&A section. I will be keeping an eye out there. I'll pause throughout just to take a look, and then I'll also be keeping an eye out on our webinar chat section. So again, feel free, share questions about what you might be building. If you are getting stuck and you are in the building process, feel free to share those questions as well as your use case. I know we have a lot of people coming to us for a variety of use cases, so definitely want to hear about that if you feel comfortable sharing. If not, that's okay too. You can also send us a private message. Again, thanks everybody for joining me. I think we've covered all that we're going to start doing. I do like to give kind of a quick overview of what you can build with Knack. So if you are new coming to Knack, you're not sure if Knack's going to work for what you're trying to do, Knack can handle a lot of functionalities, workflows, business solutions. So when coming to Knack, what can you do? We give you a blank slate, and then you're building out what it is that you need with all of the features that we have available. So as you can see here, I'm not going to read everything on this list, but we've got everything from custom business applications through internal tools, reporting and analytics, and data sharing and monetization platforms. And so what does each one of these buckets look like within Knack and the different tools? If you're going to be managing inventory, if you're going to be doing project management or managing a directory, a CRM, or following your customers or tracking your customer activities, you can do that with our platform. So again, a couple of more pieces of information as it gets into what can you build with Knack. Mobile responsive web applications. Our apps are web-based applications, so they will resize to your screen. So if you have a group of users that are in the field and they need to access these applications from their phone or a tablet, your live app will adjust to that size. So you'll be able to share your application with users that need to maybe access it on the go, mobile version. So again, take a look at this. Lots of things that you can do here. If you still have questions, you're not sure, we are available to you as part of our onboarding team. So please don't hesitate to reach out. So again, I just want to add some information here before we dive into it. How do you get support with Knack, and as you're building out your application to make sure it's going to work for your needs? We're available to you Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. You can reach out to our team, the onboarding team at knack.com. And then we've got lots of resources within our platform and offerings here at Knack. So you can check out our knowledge base. We've got some articles there on working with support. We've even got experts that you can hire and a community forum. We will dive into that in a little bit here as I walk you through the builder and where you can find links to these resources. So just kind of a heads up as we get started there. Again, I'm going to be keeping an eye out on the Q&A section and the chat section, which you'll see over in your conference room. If you've got any questions or you want to share your use case, please drop it in there. I'll be pausing throughout to take a look to see if there's any questions to answer. If not, that's okay. If you don't have any questions, I have plenty to talk about when it comes to the Knack. So hopefully you guys will find this information helpful. So let's dive into it. Today's demo, or we're going to go through, is a member directory. If you weren't, just as a heads up, if you haven't been able to join a webinar, you want to join other webinars, we definitely try to cover different topics with each webinar. This one going through the member directory, and that information will be available to you on the webinar page or within our knowledge base, where you can view these past webinars. Additionally, you will get a link to this webinar recording, so you'll be able to reference it if there's information in it that you find useful. So today we are going to go through our member directory, and specifically we're going to talk more about how you can customize a template app. So we offer lots of template apps. If you haven't made it over to our template page, you will see that we've got a variety of templates to choose from or to start with. Templates are a great way to get started with your application. They're also a great way to learn. You can use them as a guide as you're building out your applications. So I specifically want to dive into how can you install one of these templates. They're free, and then how you could potentially customize them. So we're going to first dive into our member directory. A lot of use cases, people come to Knack looking to manage members, or have a directory that's set up that allows people to be able to access a directory to see information or to connect with others within Knack. So let's dive into this member directory. So again, you'll see all of the different organizations, industries here on the left-hand side, different use cases and features that you might be interested in that you could filter by on our template page. So I'm going to search for our directory. And as I mentioned at the top, there are a lot of different directories that you can build within Knack. We've got class directory, we've got a company directory, contact, events. We'll dive into a couple of these. Specifically, I want to take a look at our member directory. It's a pretty straightforward use case. Members can log in and update their information. They can also see other members in the system. So let's first install this app. So if you've already created your Knack account, you can install directly from this page here within the platform. So while we wait for that to load, we're going to be taken right to the builder environment, or where you're actually designing and building out your application. I'm going to actually jump us to our live app, and we're going to take a look at that first, and then we'll circle back here to this directory to talk more about customization. All right, so with Knack, you have what you call your live app, which is what we're taking a look at here. And please let me know. Hopefully you're able to hear me okay, and you're able to see our member directory here. So we are hit with a login page, so our users have to authenticate, as well as we're seeing some things initially. We've got some colors here, a name here of the directory, and we've got a login form. We're viewing our live app of our member directory. Every app has their own personalized URL that's broken down into components of part of your account name, along with what your app name is. So with your Knack apps, you can have multiple apps within your account, and each app is going to have its own name. This one's our member directory 2023 -2 for this particular one, which just means my account has more than one member directory template app in it. However, this is going to be the name of your app and your app, and what you'll see here in the portion of your URL. Everything after that hash is just referring to a page. So I am going to log in here with my credentials, and I'm going to log in as an admin to my member directory. So what potentially can our admin see within the app? They're able to see a dashboard of all the members, and they're able to add members. So when we look at a page within Knack, we call these different elements that you see on the page views within Knack. So we've got a member view, which a menu view, which resembles like a button. And then we've also got a table view here, or a grid view as we call it, which looks like a table here. So we have different ways that we can either add data to the system, as well as view the data within the system. Now we're going to dive more into views in just a bit, But this is the first pieces of our dashboard where we can add these elements to view the data that we're building, that we're adding to our Knack application. So if I click on this add button form, you'll see that I have a form that pops up here that allows me to add some data. You'll also see that in my grid, I can do some things like search for information. I can look for Janet. That's going to filter that down to show me Janet. I can reset that information. And I've also got filtering options here where I can filter by the fields that are showing up on my table below. My admin, since I'm logged in as an admin, I can do some other things. You'll notice that I have some edit actions as well as view more details actions. So before we dive into these two options here, I want you to take note of the different field types that we have here. Now, we only have a few fields here. We have our name and email address, phone number, but notice the different types. So as you're building out your database and you're wanting to make sure you structure the data so that it goes in the way that you need, we've got the different field types available to you to be able to keep your data clean going in. So let's take a look at Janet. We can edit this record. So our admins can have the power to edit. We can remove that too as well. So within our directory, we can give people different levels of access and allow them to do different actions within the platform. So we can log in as an admin and we can edit this person here. We can remove information if we wanted to update that. And we can hit save. And again, take a note of these field types. We've got this address field with address information, a phone field, as well as birthday, date field, multiple choice options as well. Hitting submit, we made those changes. We can reload the form if we want, or we can go back to the admin page. And that's only a fraction of the actions that you can take within your application. Again, we have this link where we can view more details about a member. Take note with our address field, when we're in a view state, we can show a map view that shows that address on a point. So if you had needs for mapping and you wanted to be able to show this information or an address within a map, you certainly can do that. Taking a quick look, pausing here. Any questions? Don't see anything, so I'm gonna keep going. So we're gonna head back here to our dashboard. This again, very straightforward. Admin can log in and view members within the database. So let's log in as potential member. What can the member see, and can we give the member access to the information and let them take some actions? So we certainly can. We will go over this builder environment here. So you'll notice as I'm trying to log in as a member, I'm logged in as in admin. So this member page, this URL that's tied to our member, the admin doesn't have access, so to speak, to this page, and vice versa. If we were going to be logged in as an admin or a member, we wouldn't be able to log into the pages that are for our admins. So again, from a security standpoint, if you're wanting to limit who has access to what, that's really going to be dependent upon who you give access to that page to. So now I've logged in as a member, and I have somewhat similar views, but there's some things that are missing within this view that our admins or our members can do that our admins were able to do, but our members cannot do. So you'll notice we don't have that edit link here on the table. We just have a view only. So if our logged in member Janet wanted to learn more about Sherry or Jonah, they can click on them and view details about that person. They can't edit, they can't make any changes. It's read only for them. We take a step back, you'll see we have this edit option here. This allows us to edit the profile. So Janet can edit her own information, make updates if needed to the data. So we've now created within our one app 2 ways for people to access the data, the information, and take different actions on that information. So that's with this directory here. So I'm going to dive into another version of a directory. We took a look at this member directory. I definitely want to take a look at something that's a little bit more built out. It's our HOA. So if you're familiar with HOAs, they usually have residents. There's all kinds of related details that are connected with the HOA, the homeowners association. There might be a property element. There might be a dues element where residents are paying dues. And how do you build something like that out within Knack? So let's just take a look at the live app for our HOA, and then we'll circle back here to our member directory. So I'm going to close out some links here, and we're jumping again into our builder here for our HOA, but I'm going to jump to our live app. So I'm going to log in as a resident for my HOA and sign in. And so now we're getting into more things that you can see within Knack in terms of how you can display your data. So this resident's part of the Edenwood community, so they're able to see some high level or some details about the Edenwood community here and who the board members are. And now we've got this relational piece that's possible within Knack, where we can see properties and we can see unpaid dues and information here related to this logged in resident. So this resident has their own portal where they can see this information. We also have some elements where we can view community events. If we were tying community events to this Edenwood community, where we can create a dashboard, so to speak, for the residents to see some additional information about what's coming up. We even have a calendar view. So again, when we start talking about how do we display the data on our page and what features are available to you within Knack, this is one page where we're looking at now a event view or a calendar view where we could display that information here as well. And if we were to add a new event, we could add that here. We can have it for today with a description. We had our address, we drop that in, we could select our Edenwood community and add the event. If you go back to our event table, you'll see that new event's been added here, and we can click on links to see some details about that event. So really nice piece to have as a part of Knack, is being able to display our data in different ways and have our app users interact with them with that information. So that's a community event page. And then we've got our community directory where now our resident can see other residents in the community. And somewhat similar to our member directory that we went in, it was very simple where we had members could log in, edit their information, and view other members. In this case, we have our residents. They can log in. They not only can view other residents, but they can also do some other things like adding a community event or looking at their information as it relates to them and their activities within the community. All right. So this is our HOA management tool. Template app. Again, this is available to you in the template store. So if you're going to knack.com forward slash, I believe, templates will get you there. You'll be able to see all of the templates that we have available. And then all you need to do is install that directly into your account. So let's dive into the back end of our member directory. We won't dive into the HOA, but we'll definitely take a look at the member directory builder environment. All right, so taking a look here at our member directory, you'll notice we have a couple things here, and I'm gonna take you guys through this. I'm gonna work from top to bottom, but then from left to right as we go from top to bottom. So hopefully if you have questions, take a look at that webinar chat area or in the Q&A section, and feel free to drop your questions there. I don't see anything added yet, so again, all good, have plenty to talk about. So let's dive into this, the builder environment. So we were just taking a look at our live app. Now we're actually in the Knack builder for our member directory template app. And if I click on these links here, you'll see this first link, our data tab, is where we can add tables, we can add members, and we can add our user roles. So user roles, are very, very important. And I want to pause here to kind of talk about user roles as we discuss the differences between tables and user roles and when to set up a user role. So in this example, we have our user roles already set up as members. The tendency is to want to set them up here under tables. Now, to create a table, as you saw, I clicked on that plus button there. This is going to bring up my add a table area where I can add a table by import. I can add a table, start with a blank table. I can start with a pre-made table. Pre-made tables will show, give you some pre-populated fields already created in those tables. So you're welcome to start with something like that. And then you can use Google Sheets as well. So we can link to your Google account. If you've got Sheets, you can choose your worksheet and also import your data that way. So that's how you create a table. But when it comes to building out your application and deciding who's where to create a table, sometimes the tendency is to create a members table up here under your table section. And I will always encourage you to ask the question, will these users or will this group ever need to log into the database? If they need to log in and access data and have a certain level of permissions, create them under user roles. Once you create it under user roles, these behave much like a table where you can add your own fields to continue to build this out. So user roles are just like tables, but they also add an element of allowing you to set up permissions. And this will make a lot more sense once we get over to pages. So again, we're on our members table. We can continue to build out this table if need be. So if you're thinking about customizing an app, a template app, and starting with a template app to customize, everything that you see in the live app, we can customize that. We can change our field names. We can change how the page is set up and what's being displayed in those pages. If we wanted to add new fields, you'll see this add field option. We've got a panel that opens up here on the left-hand side. And those field types that I talked about earlier, this is where you can pull in all of those different field types. We have everything from number, currency, equation. There's even some more formula fields there. We can talk about that in a moment. But we've got multiple choice, date, file, personal, and other. And then as those fields get added, it's really simple to add a field. Let's say we wanted to capture, a web address. We can click that link, that web address, and it'll the link field, it'll pop right up there. We can customize the name here. We can scroll down and you'll see that you have format settings is here. You can set this to required. You can set it to must be unique. Set a default value with this link field. Do we want to show the URL? Do we want to show the same text for all URLs or all the links? So you have a lot of options here, and even including open it up in a new window. So I share this to say, with all of your field types, you will notice that you have these settings. So please give yourself the chance to explore all that is here. So I'll go ahead and add this field and you'll see it drops it right there at the bottom. And I can drag and move these around if I want into different positions. So please make note of that. You'll also see you've got dots here. Those dots are the ellipses. You can click on those. You'll see settings. You'll see validation rules, conditional rules. So give yourself time to really explore, maybe even starting with a template app. Start with a template app, break it, get into there, click on things, see what it does, remove stuff, then delete that app and then start over again. So give yourself that freedom, maybe 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes just to get comfortable with things and then start building. So adding fields is super easy. We started to add a table. Let's say we wanted to customize this workflow to add some kind of note-taking piece of it to say, hey, I want to, as an admin, add notes related to a member. So we're missing that in this template app, but you have the freedom to customize this template app to do something like that. So let's head over into our tables here, and we'll just simply add a new table, and we can just start from a blank table. We'll start from scratch, and you'll see Knack will quickly add that, and that new table is going to live here. And it's also going to have one field by default. We will always create that one field by default. Again, all of this is customizable down to changing the field name here, or the table name. Again, these icons, these dots, the chevrons, the ellipses, or the carets here, there's settings there. You can get to your table settings from here, as well as getting to your settings from here. I see a hand raised, so I'm gonna pause and take a look at our questions here. Let's see. Let's see. It looks like Ashani, you have a question. If you're okay, if you're comfortable with raising me allowing you to talk, feel free. If not, feel free to drop your question into our chat section or in the Q&A. Just let me know via chat if you're okay with unmuting. If not, that's okay. Great question. So the question is there a default field for a unique identifier? So with how Knack works, there is no default field for a unique identifying field. We manage that in the background. You do have ways that you can add a unique identifying field. And again, if we click on our add fields here where we can continue to build out this table, you'll see this option here for auto incrementing. It'll start with 1 and it will continue to count for you within your application. So you could use that potentially as your unique identifier. I think in further, we can dive into this as we get into a piece called connections. Connections, if you're familiar with databases, you're familiar with foreign keys and primary keys. We use connections to kind of connect our records together. And that happens again on the back end. But if you need a unique identifying field, you can use our auto increment field. And further, the auto incrementing field, and let's just call this our note ID since this is our note table. This we can again drag this up into that first position. This will now tie that unique number to that note, which can be leveraged. And in some instances, you may want to add this, especially if you're getting into like a member table down here. You might want to add that ID field because you may have 2 people of the same name. So how do you distinguish between the two? Outside of the email needing to be unique in this particular table, you might want to still include an ID. However, we're going to dive into connections here in just a little bit. You are very welcome. Great question. So jumping back up here to our new table that we've added, let's customize this further to make sure we know, hey, this is our notes table. So let's dive in here and we will call this our notes table, if I can spell, and then take a look at some of the settings here. This is really important. We've got this display field. This is displaying what's going to show up when you add this table potentially as a connection to another table. That does not make sense now, but it will make sense in a moment. And I'm going to highlight this and say, I'm changing this to the note ID instead of, or sorry, not this particular table. I'm going to do it somewhere else. I'm going to leave this as the name here, but we have our notes table. We've renamed it. That display field is very important when it comes to setting up your connections. It's what's going to display in that lookup field or in that connecting field that we may add to another table. And more on that in a second. This sort order is also going to define how that information sorts alphabetically, if it's a number field, numerically in a drop-down field. That's basically a lookup. So I'm going to save those changes. We may want to add here a comment or the note information. We're going to update this, edit this field, this name field. It's a short text field, which works for adding a quick note about things. We may want to also add a workflow to allow for a date to capture when this note was added. So again, I'm just going to click my add field here, and I'm going to scroll down and choose a date. Again, take note of all of the settings you have here. We can have that default date set to current date, and we can do some calendar options. So if you need a repeating or end time with your dates, you can set that up as well here. All right, so we've got some basic things set up with our notes table. Um, the next piece is how do we tie this back to our member table? How do we say, hey, this note is goes with this member? So in traditional databases or in if you're working in spreadsheets, you might be familiar with two things. You have a primary key and a foreign key. The foreign key usually goes in your child table. So if each member can be associated with many notes, that side of that statement that's your child table would be the note table. That's where you would place that foreign key. However, with Knack, we use connections. That's how we set things up. You only need one connection to connect two tables, and that's placed in your child table. So you'll see that option here on the right-hand side. It's also available as a field. As you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that connection option here. But I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to tie this note to my members table because I need to be able to assign it. And I'm going to click next. And you'll see each note connects with one member. Each member connects with many notes. Rule of thumb, if you're changing these around, you're more than likely in the wrong table. Jump out of here, change it, exit out, and go to your other table. 9 times out of 10, one to many is all you need. There are definitely use cases where many to many makes sense. One to one is super rare and basically locks things down within your application. So one to many basically keeps all your functionality unlocked and is a good way to use your database or set up your database this way. And again, you only need that one connection to set up. So now we have this started. We'll add the connection. And now you'll see this connection field here. So some quick things. I'm going to go into my member table and I'm going to make a change to those settings that we were talking about here. My display field right now is set for my name. Let's change that to our email field here. I'm going to save those changes. So I'm going to jump back into notes. And now as we've kind of worked our way, we're starting to work our way down over left to right, all of the settings. We talked about adding fields. Again, these 3 dots are going to be where you're going to find more settings as well. We're going to now move to records. So records, this is again where you are adding records, you're backfilling records, you're bringing in data from other systems, you're migrating things in. So this is where you could import all of your data, so to speak. So if you're coming from another system and you want to get your data into Knack quickly, or you have imports that you need to do maybe weekly or monthly, you can come in here and do a manual import of your data. But you can also add records individually. So you can click on the add record. We can add a new note here. We have our date being auto captured here. It's setting to the current date. Now, when I click on members, you can see I'm looking at my member at test, member 2 at test. This may not be ideal, and this plays into that display field. So when you see this in your database and you're like, why is it pointing to the wrong field? That is because that display field is set up incorrectly. So what you'll need to do is you'll exit out of this. You can go into your member table or you can click on your settings here and just update that to the name field. So by default, Knack will always pull in that first field. So if you're using an ID field and you see the ID, just come in here and update the drop-down field. Now, is that where we stop at how you connect your tables and what you see? No. Connections are very, very powerful. We dove into this a little bit in our last webinar. And that should be available here soon within our on our webinar page. But we dove into how powerful connections can be. Connections can really unlock the functionality within your application. Not only is it just as straightforward as this drop-down field, when we go to our notes and we go to add a record and we add this new note, we now see the first names here. We're going to connect that to Janet. We'll hit submit. Now we have a record here within the system, but this can be leveraged for many things. Like, let's say we have an orders table with line items and we have a products table as well. Well, in our line item, we're tying it to a product. maybe we want to pull the pricing off that product table. Once we have a connection in place on that line items table that lets us choose a product, we now can look up and pull information into that table because of connections. And it doesn't stop there. There's a lot more things that you can do with connections. If you have additional questions about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to our team. Super important feature for you guys to kind of wrap your head around as we're diving into Knack. And we'll go into some of those once we start building out our pages. So some quick things to note within our records tab, you will see that we could add a record, we can import our data, we can also export information out of Knack. You can do some batch updating and you can do some batch deleting within your builder environment. I always say in the very beginning stages, when you're building out your application, start with some test data. Uh, don't worry about importing all of your data in. Give yourself some time to get a good sense of building in Knack and how your structure of your tables will work. And then you could start importing things in. And you can certainly import into like a note table and match it to a member on your member table. So all of that stuff can be done. But give yourself some time. Give yourself some time and use use test data or some only maybe 5 to 10 of your records that you will be using just so you can have an idea and visualize it with your own data. You can certainly bring that in, but don't worry about importing everything in at that early step. Once you get a good sense, then import away. So again, all of those actions are here and available to you within the database. Add those test records. So once you jump to this pages area, you can start to see things take shape. So you can continue add tables, continue to add test records. You'll see this next option here, tasks. This is available with our Pro plan and above. Tasks are great to do things, do automations without having to log in every day and take actions yourself. These are actions that will happen automatically for you. So one easy use case, a birthday is coming up. Check the date. If the day is today, send an email to say happy birthday. That's one way to do it. You can also update connected records. You can update current records or update the current table based on some sort of trigger. So again, you've got email user. We can have this run daily, weekly, or monthly. So it'll check for that trigger for every day or every week, whenever you set that. And then once that's set up, again, you have options to update the current record, update the connected record. So maybe a record connected on another table, insert connected records, and again, that send an email option. And you'll see you can set when you want this to run or when you want the action to run. And then if we're doing an update of the record, we can say set this date to today, to the current date, if that was something we wanted to do. If we were looking at an email action, we can set up on this day, send an email, and we can build out those emails and even accessing the fields that are part of that table. Actions are really great. They're available with our Pro plan and above. Again, they help you to automate things hands off within the system. You won't see this as an option to test during the trial, but you can definitely check out the knowledge base. We'll have some information there on scheduled tasks as well. So jumping back in here and continuing to work our way down on the left-hand side, we've got a pages section. This is where all of the magic happens. This is where all the fun happens. So this is where you're basically setting up your app, your live app. When we were taking a look at our member directory, and we were logged in as a member and admin, we're able to see those things, this login page. This is where we build out all of this within our application. So pages is where this happens. So as you can already see, we've got some pages added here, which we've already tested out. We've already done a demo of, but I will click on each one of these pages. If you're familiar with building in CMS type tools like WordPress or Squarespace, not so much, but you usually have like a design or development environment where you can see your pages on the left-hand side, or you can see a sitemap, and you've got all of the things that are going on within your application on the right-hand side. Knack is somewhat similar, where we've got pages and we've got views that we're adding to a page. So if you remember in the live demo, I kept calling things views. Views are ways to display your data, to add to your system, or add data to your database, or edit that data in your database. So we've got different ways to do that within that. So one view here is our login view. This allows us to add a page where we can force our users to authenticate. Authentication pages or login forms are added just by clicking, when you click this plus button here, this allows you to create 3 different types of pages. A public page, which is going to be open to the public. Anybody, if they had the URL, could view that information. The login page is what we're seeing here. We've added a login page. It's also denoted by this lock where you'll see here. And then drop-down menus. This is if you want to group pages into one drop-down. You can use the drop-down menu option. So adding a page is super straightforward, and we can create a login. We can give permissions to all of our users. We can limit who has access to the page. We can say only our members and only our admins. So if you remember at the top of the call, we were able to log in as an admin, then also log in as a member. And each one couldn't access the other's page. We had to log in or authenticate with those credentials. So this is where this is happening. So when we go back and we talk about, I'm going to jump back up here on the data tab and creating these user roles, and why it's so important to kind of figure out who do I need to log into this application and how will they relate to the data. That whole piece is really tied to these user roles. So getting that set up first, making sure you set this up first before you start diving into this piece, if you have a need in your use case to set up these permissions, because then this is where we start setting these things up. So it's by adding this login page. If we were to rebuild maybe the members portal section, we can click on login page. We can say, hey, I want my members to have access to this information. And we can click continue, and we could create this new page. I'm going to leave it as new page for right now, but it's a blank page. If I were to go to my live app, I can preview this page. We've got 2 options here. I can preview this page. It keeps me in my same environment. I can log in as a member. And you can see this page is blank. There's absolutely nothing on this page at all for us to see. And that's this new page right here. Absolutely blank. So I can click stop preview, and this blank page is what we're seeing here. So now once you've added the page, you've decided who has access, we can now start adding details to this page. We can say, I want to add a view. And that view is going to open up a panel here where we have different ways to display again and update and update and add to your database. So you'll see we've got grid views, we've got that calendar view, we've got map views, list views, search views, which is more like a grid with more field for you to search from. So you'll notice with our grid, we only had a keyword field with a way to filter, but the search view actually gives you additional fields to search by in a view like this here. But you'll notice all of the different views here are available within Knack. Let's say we wanted to show a grid and we wanted to show all the notes tied to this logged in customer. If you remember, we added that connection field from in our notes table that tied it to a logged in, I said customer, but a member. We can show this logged in member all notes, or we can show them notes that they are connected to. So they're only seeing the notes that are related to them. So that is the benefits of one. We start realizing how connections work. Once we have the connection set up, we can now I always say Knack pages know about a thing. They know about, we set up a login page that knows about the member, and now it can start leveraging all of those pieces that we've done in the back end to tie that member to other pieces of data within the system. So we're able to kind of build out this workflow where we're able to show these notes related to this particular member. So we'll add the grid. And that's it to build out the structure. Once you've added a view, you're immediately added to the settings for that view. So how do you know you're in the settings? Notice this area is grayed out. If I unselect it, I'm immediately taken to the top area of where my pages are, and this is no longer selected. I can click anywhere on it, it becomes selected, and I've got some settings here. You'll see a source setting. This source is going to tell you what this view, what records are being displayed here, and we're looking at records connected to the logged in member. You have some filtering options as well. We only want to show notes that have a date of today. So then this is immediately going to filter and show only those notes that are available, or those notes that were added for their account that day. Having a hard time talking today. You'll also see you have sort options. We can sort by the note alphabetically. We can also choose the date to do chronologically as well. We can limit to only show a few options here, or show all of the records. Now, I can go into each one of these settings here and really get granular, but this is another area where I will always recommend that you give yourself time to explore and to see all of the settings there. And it's not just as deep as these settings that we're seeing here. You even have options as you navigate over on this right hand side. You can click on a column and change what's being shared here. You can group information. You have display rules. You've got some design options as well. So like I said, I can easily go into these, but I will definitely encourage you to hover your cursor over, see what options you potentially have within your application. Um, so jumping back here, that's your source. In our settings, again, that keyword option, we can take that off. We can say, hey, I want everyone to be able to export records. We want to turn on inline editing. So it turns into a spreadsheet, so to speak, where you can click into each cell and make a change there. We can hide empty columns. We can do column summaries. So let's say you have line items tied to an order and you want to total up those line items. You can add a summary, and that would just show up at the bottom of the table. So lots of things you can do. We can even say, no, we don't want them to filter. We can use a filter menu. So lots of stuff. I saw a question pop up here, so I'm going to take a look at the question, and then we'll jump back into it. So let's see. Can the option for displaying only records connected to the member on this page be added after you create the page, or does that option have to be selected upon page creation? So the quick answer to that is yes and no. Not that that's super helpful, but yes, it can be added after the page is created. However, you potentially might need to do that from the source, where member is the logged in member. So let's say we added the notes option here. We didn't make that choice to show notes connected to the logged in member. You'll see that under, if we choose the member here, we can say only filter this out by the logged in member. Sometimes that is works. Other times you might run into where you might not be on a details page specifically, or you're on a details page for some other bit of data where you might not see this option. So just keep note of that. But yes, you can certainly do this after the fact, but it doesn't always work for every scenario. Hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if not. So, yep, you bet, you're welcome. So again, taking a look here, we have our source. You can back out of this. We have settings, where again, I encourage you to explore. We could do menus here if date is before today, let's say. We could say past, and you'll see that updating past notes, and we can continue to build this out. We can say date is after today. Then we can say new notes. Not that it would make that much sense here, but we could continue to build this out based on whatever filter you might be using to set. If you had a status, if we're looking at projects, if we're looking at tasks, let's say these notes are tasks and they have a status, you could create this this menu view here with these tabs. So when I tell you lots of features are available with the Knack, please give yourself the time to kind of to explore things. One other thing that I do like to point out, as we took a look at settings, we can jump into add columns. We can even access those fields in our connected tables. So if we wanted to look up on our member table and pull some information into notes, we wanted to pull in background info, or we wanted to pull in an address, we wanted to pull in the phone number, we can just click on that and bring that in to our view. So not only do you have the option to add information or to share, bring in other fields from other tables, you can do that with all of our views. You'll see this option here under your option where it's either adding columns or displaying fields, and you'll see this connections option. If we didn't give our users a way at the earlier steps to edit this information here, but we wanted to give them an option to edit that information, we can do that at a later step. So along the same lines as if we didn't set up the view to filter at that one stage, we can still do the same thing with actions that are like editing, viewing more details. So we can add those from our actions option, where you can now see on my table here that I'm able to pull in that edit option as well as the delete option if I wanted to. We can also trigger unique actions like, again, sending an email. And you'll see that here. We have similar actions that we do have available with our scheduled tasks. So if they click that button, it'll trigger an update in the current record or an update on a connected table, or an insert a new record on a connected table, or sending a custom email. So action links are great too as well. Can't say it enough. Give yourself time to check these things out. So that's your adding columns. And again, each view will be different. So as you see, we've got admins, we've got our members portal, we have our members portal, and we create this new page for members. Just quick thing to note, if I go check this out in our live app, you'll see now that I have two navigation items up here. I have my members and I have my new page here with the notes information. That again gets created by clicking this plus button here, and that starts to create your navigation. So you'll notice I'm not seeing my admin tab because I'm logged in as a member, and I'm only seeing the tabs that the member has access to. Additionally, we have this login here, all the pages cascading underneath it. Those are all behind a login as well. And even if you create new pages and put them behind a login, once they log in on one of these pages, they get logged in everywhere within the application. So again, it makes it simple and easy for everyone to be able to navigate around their app. They just need to log in one. We're just making sure that page is secured, and we're just saying who has access to this page. So again, we can continue to build things out for our users. If we want to come into one of these views and customize further, it's somewhat similar to what we were doing in this new experience as we were creating a new page. We can navigate to each one of these pages. We can continue to add views to these pages if we wanted to build them out further. We can drop into our members page. Maybe we want to add another bit of a workflow here, maybe for our admins. We want to see all of the notes tied to a member, so we can navigate to one of those pages. Hey, we're on a details page for a member. Let's show all of those connected notes now tied to the member. So we can quickly now add a view. We want to show a grid. We have the notes option to display because now we're on a details page for a member. So we can show these related pieces of information. So notes connected to the page's member. We can click continue, and you can see that start to take shape. We can give our admins edit access. And if we wanted to link them to a details to see more, if we had more fields to show, we could. And then if there were more details, notes added, other connected tables, we could continue to build out even this page through this builder or this option here. So I'm going to click continue and I'm going to add the grid. So now I've continued to build upon this existing template app. And again, we can click in anywhere and we can make changes. We can say we want to remove this and we want to set the field label to top aligned and we want to do things like add a static element. So I can continue to show you all the things. There's so much, and as I'm taking a look here at the time, we've got about 5 minutes left. Like I said, I can always talk about Knack. There's so much goodness that I can show. But this is how you would build out an app and customize it. So a couple things I do want to go over before we drop off here. And again, I'm taking a quick look over here. I don't see any additional questions, but if something comes up, please let me know. Taking a look at this builder environment, I talked a little bit about resources. How do you get help with your Knack? Where can you find those resources? There is a help icon here. You can click on that there. You will see that we've got links to our knowledge base, the Get Started articles. This will take you to our template area. So if you're interested in seeing more templates, you can jump there. You saw the link there for webinars, that information there. We also have a section here. I'm going to kind of skim down where it says extend your app. If you are a developer or working with developers, there's additional ways to customize your app outside of the features that you saw here today. One, we have integrations. If you are interested in integrating your app with other platforms as a no-code way of using our APIs, you can work with Zapier, Integromat, which is now make.com, is available to you. So that allows you to connect to other platforms via no code. So as long as that other platform also integrates with these tools, you can do that as well. FormStack Docs too is on here. Embedding your app. This will take you to the article on embedding your app. But what does that mean? We've been looking at this Knack personalized URL, which you can share out. However, if you are wanting to embed your app on your website, you can create a snippet of code that you can then copy and paste onto your website. So that can be found in your settings here. So if I work my way down here on the left-hand side, this is where you have all of your app settings where you can change your name. You can change the name, the portion of your URL that refers to the app. You can add a description and some other additional details. You'll see some security information here, as well as info in terms of where your data is being stored, if you need some HIPAA compliance, as well as if you need a DPA signed, you can see that information. And map provider as well. You can use the new Knack maps, or you can use your own Google Maps information. We've got our live app design area. So this is where you're building out the look and feel. We've got colors here. We've got the name of the app here. You've got lots of elements here that can be customized. So take a look at that. And then user logins. So you can secure individual pages or everyone can have the same level of access. You've got inactivity options here, password requirements. So again, please dive into that. E-commerce with our Pro plan and above, you can have e-commerce if you had a need to add a paywall of some sort. We've got those options there. And then you'll see our API and customization section. With this, you can add your own JavaScript, you can add your own CSS, as well as connecting with using our APIs to connect with your own other platforms. So if you're not using Zapier or make.com, you can certainly work with our APIs. And the links to our docs are right there. Again, and you'll also find that here under the Extend Your App option. And a couple other things. I briefly mentioned earlier about hiring an expert. So if you get into Knack and you're like, this is great, this is exactly what I want, but I need a little bit of help building out my application, or I'd like to hire someone to build out our application. We have partners. They have to apply to be a part of our partner network and show proficiency in the product. Once we've verified fit and we've vetted and made sure that they are somebody we want to work with, they are become a Knack partner. And so you'll find our Knack partners here. So if you would like to hire somebody to build out your application, you can work with them to build it out. You can work with them from consulting to training, as well as customizations in terms of CSS, JavaScript, and any APIs. You can also set your budget and other options here in terms of preferred language and location and time. Um, and that's it. And then you work with them directly. You can reach out to them and share the scope of your project. Our partners are also active in our community, which you'll see here. So if you do have some questions, if you're starting to dive into custom code, while we would love to be able to support everyone's custom coded solution, that's something we don't offer with support. So we would highly recommend reaching out to one of our Knack experts who are actively customizing their apps as well. And there's a section in our knowledge base or in our forums, APIs and customization. So another good place to check out as well. And it looks like we're right on time. I appreciate you guys all for joining me today. Again, if you have additional questions about Knack, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are available to you again from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can reach out to the team at onboarding@knack.com, and we are happy to help and answer any questions that you have. With that said, we're 1 minute after. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for joining me. Bye, everyone.